everybody, I'm Melody from Vast Remedy, and I just wanted to take a moment to give you my personal testimony. I'm just going to get right into it, and I really hope and I pray that it helps somebody if you may be going through the same thing. All right, so I'm going to talk to you today about how God delivered me from a pornography addiction. Now, this is something that a lot of women really don't talk about because, number one, it really is a taboo subject. I think that more people should talk about it, but they really don't because of the nature of it. And I really want to go ahead and just talk to you about that because I struggled with that for a really long time. And I really do think that more people, especially women, need to come out and talk about it because most people think that it's just a man's problem, and there are a lot of women, even Christian women, struggling with this. So I got exposed to pornography at a very young age, at the age of 8, and it wasn't, part of me feels like it really, well, not part of me, I mean, I didn't choose to be exposed to it, someone exposed me to it. So from that point on, I struggled in my mind with feeling like, okay, well, that's what love is, you know, that's what I saw, so I just felt like that was what love was. And actually, the year that I got exposed to it at the age of 8, that's the same year that my parents separated. So my father, he had just moved out of the house, and I got exposed to that. And growing up, I was always looking for love, just looking for acceptance, and my father he really wasn't there for me and my sisters. No calls, you know, no Christmas call, no birthday calls, you know, no visits. You know, when they first separated, we saw him, we would go spend the night at his house, but the older we got, by the time I was 12, really didn't see him a whole lot. So I just didn't feel that father's love, that father's affirmation, and I really longed for that. And a lot of people, every person kind of responds to the absence of their father in different ways. And for me, I would always daydream kind of about the things that I saw when I was little and the things that I was exposed to as far as pornography. I felt like that's what love was. So all throughout my elementary years, all throughout my middle school years and high school years, you know, I would struggle with fantasies in my head and wouldn't really act on them, didn't really have a way to. But that seed of perversion was planted at a young age, and it pretty much stayed with me. And I would say by the time I was 22, I moved out of my mom's house, me and my sister, and I got my own computer and was surfing the internet in chat rooms and stuff like that, just looking for people to talk to. And I eventually got exposed to it again. And with that, I started on a low level and gradually went on to watch more perverse photographs and images and videos, to the point where I finally realized I needed to stop doing that. I needed to stop participating in that or viewing that, and I couldn't. And that's when I realized I was addicted. So I would do a lot of prayer, asking God to deliver me from that, asking for forgiveness, feeling condemned, and all of that. And there were some other things going on in my life too that I really wasn't happy about. You know, my sister, she told you her testimony about her struggle with lupus, and that was going on, and there were times we thought we were going to lose her. So just a lot of hard things going on in my life that I did not know how to deal with. And my relationship with God really wasn't all that strong. I loved him, I prayed to him and everything, but it just really wasn't strong. Or maybe I didn't know how to fight. You know, I just didn't know how to fight. So basically that made me feel, the fact that I was a Christian girl going to church and singing with my sisters, ministering to youth. By this time I was in my 20s, and everyone looked up to me at my church. I was like, kind of like the poster girl for, you know, doing the right thing and serving God and keeping herself pure, but no one knew that I was struggling with a porn addiction. Like, no one knew that. And I really felt like I couldn't tell anybody because I was a female, and I've never heard any other females talking about this. I didn't feel like I can go to my pastors, any elders, just nobody. I just felt like who can I tell? And I just felt like I couldn't tell anybody. So at the age of 28, I decided to go to another church. Me and my sister and my mom eventually too. So I went to another church, and I continued to struggle with this. And by now it was around, like, I would say maybe 5 years that I had been struggling, and just always feeling condemned. Like, just the feeling of just disappointing God every day, and disappointing yourself, and telling yourself that this will be the last time you do it, and then you do it again. I just felt like I just wasn't worthy of God's love or anybody else's love, to be honest with you. So when I switched churches, the pastor there seemed really transparent about his past, and he seemed very non-judgmental. So one night, I really felt like it was time for me just to get help. I had a whole binge that night, had watched it for 5 hours straight, and I was like, I really need to get some help. So I reached out to the pastor's wife, and I wrote her on Facebook. Then she scheduled a meeting for about 2 weeks later. So those 2 weeks passed, and I was tortured in my mind. You know, when you try to get help, the enemy definitely comes into your mind and tells you, you know, you're going to ruin your reputation. They're not going to love you anymore. What are they going to say? You are definitely going to battle that. You're going to battle that. But there are some things in life, for especially addictions, you can't really break those by yourself. If you have that stronghold and you are straight up addicted to something, anything, and you've tried to break it on your own and you just can't seem to, and it's been years, the enemy wants to keep making you believe that you can just fight this on your own, and you really can't. At some point, you need to break that secrecy, and you need to tell someone. So I told my pastors, we had that meeting. They were very loving and gracious and stern, but they prayed for me. And I remember my pastor's wife telling me to fast and pray. So I eventually began to fast and pray, and spend a lot of time with God, do my best to resist temptation, or to get rid of temptation. And it was a slow process for me. I stayed on top of it for about a year, and I guess I just expected God to just deliver me like that. And for some people he does, but for me he didn't. He required me to do my part. He required me to deny my flesh, and whenever I did slip up, I would feel really bad. And I would say that my testimony is that I've learned that He really is a loving and a gracious God. Now, some people, they die in their sin, but for some reason, God did not allow me to die in my sin. He was very loving and gracious and patient with me, because I really was trying, and I know I was not perfect, but I made a decision that I was going to fight this thing, and that I couldn't do it in my own strength. That's the important thing. I could not do it in my own might and power. I had to have God's help. I had to have His grace. We know that God makes a way of escape for you when you're battling temptation. So there's no temptation that you can have that you can't overcome. So I really had to fight. And what I learned in the process is that God, He will never leave you or forsake you. He will never leave you or forsake you. And whatever you're called to do, it doesn't matter what you're going through. If you're called, you're called. You know, God's not going to give you a gift and then later on repent that He gave you that gift. If you're called, you're called. And the gift is without repentance. And whenever you decide to change, and whenever you decide to reach out for help, and whenever you decide to begin to fast and to pray and to really go hard after God, you can be delivered from anything. From anything. And whatever you're called to do, God can get you right back on track. So I just want to encourage you, if you are a female struggling with a pornography addiction, please reach out. Please write us at vastremedy@gmail.com, or visit our website, or drop a comment if this is something you struggle with. We will be more than happy to pray for you. We're not going to judge you. Trust me, I've been there. So I know that God is a deliverer. Okay, He's a deliverer, and He's a healer, and He can heal your mind, He can heal your soul, He can heal your body, He can heal your emotions. He is a deliverer, and He is a healer, and that's what I've learned, and I have to say that is my testimony. And I'm sitting here today talking to you, and because of Christ, you know, Christ is what makes me worthy to do this. So thank you so much. I really hope to hear from some of you if you're struggling. Even if you're not, just love to hear from you either way. God bless you, and bye-bye.